fall, and it's closing in at a preposterous speed. Wait, this can't be. It's disappeared.
What's up, YouTube? Welcome to another Atem Co. live stream. How are you all doing tonight? Today has been a fun day. It's busy day, but it's almost the weekend, and I'm pretty pumped on that. Today we are going to be talking about how to work with brands when you are under 1,000 subscribers, when you're a newer, small channel. How do you go about working with brands? And before I go in and talk about it, one thing I want to address is that these are things that I've done. Also, let me know in the chat if you guys can hear me. If you can't hear me, obviously this doesn't make any sense and we'll just start over. But these are all things that I've done work with brands. So I want to give that clarification because I hate, like, YouTube strategy channels sometimes drive me nuts because a lot of times it's not one fit all as far as working with brands or success in general on YouTube. And so I wanted to kind of give the insight of working with brands. This also comes off the subject that we talked about last week, where we talked about how to have YouTube fund your next project or your next film. With things like getting brands to help you test gear, or potentially send you gear to test, or give you free gear. That's one way to help you, or have YouTube help you fund your project. Because obviously if you don't have the funds for lenses or lighting, then having YouTube kind of help with those things can help fund your project in a way. And a part of that is basically working with these brands. But the question then becomes, okay, well, if I'm a smaller channel, I have a smaller following, how do I get brands to notice me? How do I start working with brands? And like I said before, based off of my experience, I have a couple of key points I want to point out and kind of talk about that I think would maybe really helpful as far as getting your foot in the door with brands, or start working with brands, again, even if you're a smaller channel. If you do want to get involved, just like any other Atem & Co stream, if you do want to get involved in the discussion, obviously jump down to the live chat. Let me know what you think. Let me know, questions you may have, and we'll pop them up here on the screen. While YouTube is a funny place, typically it takes about 10 to 20 minutes for YouTube to recognize what type of stream you're putting on and suggest it to other people, or suggest it to more people. So we're going to do a little bit of housekeeping while we wait for YouTube to tell people that, hey, we're live, and come on in. One is, this past Tuesday, I did put out a short film called Leaving Safety. It is one that I used some Sigma Cine primes that I had basically to test out, kind of going back to working with brands. And I was able to work with the Sigma Cine team out in LA to send me some lenses to try out. And so I decided to make a short film about them, or not about them, but with them. So that's out, Leaving Safety. You can check up on my channel. It should be in the short films playlist. And if I remember, I never remember, but I'll put it in the card up here on the top left. The other thing is, this week, I wanted to do another short film, but I just, mental capacity couldn't do it. But this week I am going to be working with Tokina lenses, which I'm super pumped on. It's my first kind of experience working with Tokina, and so I'm trying out their ATX zoom lenses, the 11-20 and the 50-135. And I can tell you right now, I went out and did a shoot with them yesterday. I love them. They're pretty dope. They give my Sigma zooms definitely a run for their money at not necessarily a fraction of the cost, but definitely a lot cheaper as far as getting them and getting into those lenses. So that will be this week. I'm hoping to do some more shoots. That way, it's I give a little bit more footage. I always like supplying more footage. And again, I would have loved to put another short film together for Tokina, but my day job right now has got all my brain capacity just like taken up, and with the Leaving Safety short film, editing that last weekend, just kind of took a lot out of me. So we're just gonna probably do more like standard B-roll, but more in a test environment, stuff like that. I'm actually really excited because I get to do things like test focus breathing, flaring, and those I actually get to where like I get really excited about that. So that's what's coming up. Another piece of housekeeping is the fact that Discord, Anson & Co. Discord. If you have not joined the Anson & Co. Discord, do that. Matter of fact, let me bring that up on my phone. I got to do my weekly drop the link so that people can know. Let me actually make sure that, because I haven't had anybody chat so far. Let me see if you guys can hear me based off of me being in the chat or me being in the stream. But I'll drop in the link to the Discord. Come join the conversation. We talk about stuff like this on a pretty regular basis. We talk about cameras. I dropped a link over to there's a used OG pocket camera. I put that in the community tab, but I put it first in the Discord. So if you're wanting to talk cameras, wanting to talk gear, join the Discord. Definitely a great place to meet like-minded people. There we go. Actually, let me drop the link. So with that, Discord. All right, I feel like I've been talking like a mile a minute here. Again, if you want to join the conversation, please do. And I'm going to get started here in just a minute as far as these different points, these different things to consider when you're trying to work with brands. And again, the whole goal for it is to potentially work with brands so that you can either get gear to test, get gear in general for your next project, for your next film. For example, I could have probably shot a short film with the Tokina lenses, and that wouldn't have cost me any money because they sent me them for free to test out and review. And so if you're wanting to use decently high-end cinema lenses, having a YouTube channel that you're working with brands will help you in the long run. All right, so we got a couple people joining. Mark says, "Hey, dude, what's up, Mark? It's nice to see you." By the way, I feel like I finally cracked the system on being able to see my chat and not have to like look over to the computer. Sidecar. I've used my iPad for monitoring stream chat for like ever since I've done streaming, but I finally enabled Sidecar. So now I have my StreamYard window on my iPad. And so I'm monitoring all that. Zahari says, "Greetings from Malaysia, mate." Greetings. Thanks for joining. Philip says, "I enjoyed your last live stream, which was about this topic. Didn't get to join live, but I'm here now." Awesome. And honestly, I kind of said this at the beginning. This is a continuation of that topic because we talked about how to have YouTube fund your next project, your next film. And one of the big points was working with brands, whether it's getting to test gear or getting free gear. And so this is just a natural continuation of that. Okay, you're under 1,000 subscribers. You're under, maybe 500 subscribers. how do you start working with some of these brands, and what are some things to keep in mind when you're doing that? So we're going to get into here. Mark says, sidecar is the tits. Love it. It is the tits. I'm not going to lie. And so that being said, all right, let's go ahead and get into it. Where's my phone? Because I have my points on my phone. So the first thing that I want to mention, and this is something that you'll see on a lot of like strategy channels, but I want to echo, is I kind of have like 2 points in one. And that is invest in your quality, and also make a portfolio of reviews, or kind of build your portfolio of reviews. And the reason why these go hand in hand is you can kind of make them two separate points. But the first point of that is to invest in your quality. So, one thing you may want to look into is decent lighting, decent audio, because a lot of times people, when they get on YouTube, they just start basically kind of going through, and maybe they start on their phone, and that's fine. And it's not to say don't start on your phone, but maybe if you're starting on your phone, look at the quality that you're putting into it. It's painful to watch, and if we have time, maybe I'll jump over there. But my first YouTube video was not Anson & Co. It was a brand called Ghouls and Gains, and the whole concept was, it was an athletic brand that was kind of focused around being fit, or preparing for being fit to prepare for an outbreak. And it's kind of on the nose now because we just had the pandemic, but at the time it was like 2015, something like that. It was back when Walking Dead was at its prime and all that. So like zombies were a cool thing. And so Ghouls and Gains was the first thing. I started all that on my phone. I got some, just basically like some soft boxes, like very cheap, just like bulbs, soft box. I don't even know what they're called, but they're photography soft boxes. I got some of those. I had two of them, and I pointed them directly on each side of me. Not flattering at all. Like no, like one side key light, and no, I did not understand lighting at that point. But I had lighting, and I had a lapel mic, which I have now. Great way to step up your audio is to use a lapel mic, because it gets the audio closer to your face. And there's less, like, I don't have this room sound treated. And so, I use this room in all my videos. And so, getting the mic closer to my face is a great way of trying to cut out any echo, or just making it sound super tinny. Don't use your like onboard audio. Like if it's the only thing you have, then sure. But, try to invest in making the quality of your videos better. And the reason for that is you have more of a leg to stand on when you do approach brands. A lot of times, especially photography and videography brands, if you approach them and you don't have your videos on point, or at least to a point where like on point for where you are, it's again, it's not much of a leg up to stand on. The classic story I like to tell with this is Sigma. You guys know I work with Sigma a ton, love Sigma. I'm basically a Sigma fanboy. Sigma, when I reached out to them originally, I was around, I want to say I was somewhere between 500 and 800 subscribers. And I reached out to them to try to test some lenses. And I said this last week, but basically, the guy that I emailed was like, normally we work with bigger channels, but we like the quality of your videos. And so like, what would you like to test out? Let's start there. And I tested some of their crop sensor lenses, some of their more inexpensive lenses. I didn't go straight into like, hey, can I test your cine lenses? And we'll get to that here in a little bit of the strategy there. But because I invested in the quality of my videos, I was able to kind of have a little bit more of a leg to stand on. Now that goes into like that second point of build your portfolio. And this is where it gets tricky for some people, because and this is really true of anything in the photo video industry, of building your portfolio. If you haven't gotten work yet, is work with what you have, build your portfolio with what you have. My first few reviews were all, like my biggest video to date is, I think the video was titled like best lens to upgrade your A6400 or something like that. And it was just the Sony 18-105. I had that lens and I love that lens and I talked to it. Actually, my first review, which was actually it was probably the first video that got as successful as it did. I think I was doing vlogs at the time and I would only see like at a max, like 10 to 15, not 10 to 15, like maybe like 20 to 30 views per video. In that video I dropped, it was the Sigma 16mm f1.4. And I dropped it and I think it got like 1,000 views within like a couple weeks. I think now it's like 16,000 views. It's still pretty low, but it was just like, here's a stabilization on the Sigma, 16mm f1.4. And so these are all things that I have. When I got my EOS M, I reviewed my 7 Artisans 25mm f1.8, and I eventually sent it back because I just didn't need it anymore. But I had purchased it, and I did a review of it, and to this date, that is still the most searched lens on my channel. And so, build up your repertoire, build up your portfolio, so that these brands can see that you have maybe an established portfolio and established channel. I can speak to my interaction just now with Tokina. That look very similar to, and I can give you guys like what I say to brands or like how do I approach brands, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But I was basically like, here's my channel, here's what I have, and here's my vibe, here's what I do. And they're able to look at that and say, okay, yeah, let's do it. Some brands may require, like, Tokina required some type of like insurance just to cover like the lenses and stuff like that. And that happens. It's not ever necessarily going to be like, free and then also like responsibility free and stuff like that. There may be different strings that, tied to it. Maybe it's a loaner program. Maybe it's a complete giving program. Like 7 Artisans just give me the lenses that I test for exchange of the review. So first and foremost, start building the quality of your videos by lighting, by good audio. Good audio is going to go a long way. So definitely go with that. And then, use the stuff that you have to build a portfolio of reviews. Now, in that, we could spread off and have like 5 different conversations. We can talk about like how to get good quality video with the gear that you have, with a phone, window lighting, a lapel mic. I've made videos on that before, of how to like start YouTube on the cheap. And we can get in that conversation. And we can also get in the conversation of like how building your portfolio is not just attributed to YouTube. Like it's, if you're Mark and you're doing wedding videos, like you have to have a portfolio. Like, and if you've never done a wedding before, you have to figure out like, okay, maybe I stage something. Maybe I work with a friend that's getting married, or maybe a friend that's needs some type of corporate shoot, whatever it may be. Build your portfolio with the resources that you have. Again, these can be completely separate conversations. So we're going to come back to the idea of working with brands as a smaller channel. And something to be clear on is I'm looking at this in the sense of a filmmaker. How can YouTube benefit you with working with these brands, and how can they fund your project? But this can apply to any like niche in YouTube. As far as if you're a makeup makeup channel and you teach how to put on makeup or what have you, like you can use the same kind of approach with those brands as well. Like it doesn't just apply to photo and video. This could apply across the board. So hopefully you guys have some, get some benefit on here, even though you're surrounded by a bunch of filmmakers and, some photographers as well. Mark says, if you haven't shot something before, you got to go pro bono or set up a styled shoot. Yep. Same thing with YouTube though. Bribe a buddy with beer and shoot a small story. Absolutely. Absolutely. one thing that I love with these short films that I'm making is like literally Leaving Safety, the one I just put out, cost me, I did spend like $15 in wardrobe. But and I think I told you guys, I used an LED light that I bought I bought the B7C like a month or two ago. And so I used that for the black and white scenes just to get, it's funny, I use it for the black and white scenes, but I end up making the whole thing black and white. So really the white balance and the color temperature really didn't matter that much. But other than, a light that I already had and going to buy a denim shirt that my wife wore in that shoot, which was like, it was like $20. Other than that, I didn't really spend any money. Those Cine Primes sent to me to test. I owned the 50-100, and everything else was stuff I owned. Now you can say, well, you own a, Blackmagic Pocket 6K and the Cine 50-100 and the 18-35. Yes, I have built that up over time, and everyone starts somewhere. So, but all that to say, like these films are really fun to make because there's no pressure. I don't have a huge budget. So that's both a negative and a positive because there's not that pressure there. But I'm able to talk to my wife and talk to my nephew and be like, hey, you guys want to do a shoot? Like the Tokina stuff, I took my nephew out and we did a shoot. Cool, done. And so find a friend, find people that will help you out. And definitely you'll become the annoying person that just asks for favors all the time. Quippy says, hey, Anson and everyone. What's up, Quippy? How are you? So yeah, first big point was build up your portfolio and work on the quality. And those go hand in hand because the more you build up and more you do things, the more your quality will be better. Pav, you are up late. Wow. We are blessed today. Pav SZ. Pav is on the stream. Love it. I'm listening. Interesting stuff. It's funny. Pav, you can attest to this. I remember when Pav first started, me and him would talk, and he was like the protege for a long time. And now I'm the protege of his because he's just like skyrocketed as far as like smaller YouTube channels, and not to smaller in this. He has 10,000 now, working on 11,000. But Pops is still working and listening to you. Damn, you're working late, buddy. But I remember we would talk all the time about like strategy. This is something that Pav and I probably have talked about more than honestly anything that we've talked about. Pav and I met probably a couple years ago, and we talk to each other pretty frequently. I think we're like YouTube besties. But this is something we talk about all the time, is like talking to brands, talking to, working with companies to test their stuff and to do reviews. I mean, if you're a review channel, it's the name of the game. You got to talk to brands. But even if you're not a review channel, even if you're wanting to do filmmaking, like we talked about last time, but using reviews as supplemental content to get these brands on board so that you can potentially fund or get gear for your next film. I mean, it's definitely something you got to do if you want to play the game. So welcome, Pav. Thank you for joining, buddy. So with that, let's move on. So once you build up your portfolio, your repertoire, I'm probably using that incorrectly, but once you've worked on your quality, let's talk about actually talking to brands. So the first thing I want to talk about, or first thing I want to mention when you're talking to brands, is find brands that are the kind of like proportionate size to your channel. And what I mean by that is, if you're at 500 subscribers, you're not going to go talk to Canon. Hell, you're probably not going to go talk to, some of the even like B or C kind of level brands. So know your market. Know that, okay, this is where I am in the totem pole of YouTube. Let's cater to these brands that don't have a huge marketing budget. Some brands that come to mind, and honestly, not even anymore at this point, because most of them have started to really mature and become like actual brands that you film with or photograph with. But at the time, it was stuff like Seven Artisans or Makey. And now both of those brands are getting bigger. And what I love about it is I've been working with Seven Artisans for a couple of years now. And so as they get bigger, I'm like, hey, can I get the 50 f0.95 to test out? Yeah, okay, we'll send one to you. Okay, awesome. And that goes into something we'll mention here in a minute about building relationships. Quippy says, picking up a Seven Artisans 0.95 for Fuji X mount today to review. Looking forward to see how much better it is from the 1.2 version. I love the 35 0.95. It's an amazing lens. Sorry, you got me distracted. He said, by the way, well done at reaching 6K. I completely forgot to mention the channel is at 6K. Woo! So I just reached 6K, I think today or yesterday. I can't remember which one it was. And then Brian gives the interesting emoji. And then Love 7. Pav uses it's a 51.05. Pav uses that for like all of his B-roll. But going back to that point, work with brands that you feel like you can offer something to, and that may be at a level to listen to you. You can be really ambitious. Like, we're talking about Sigma. Like Sigma is a really respectable brand and a big, lens company. And I, for lack of better terms, kind of like shot for the stars on that one, and lucked out. They liked my stuff and they agreed to work with me. But it can get deflating if that's all you do is approach those bigger brands and just either get told no or don't get a response at all. That's the worst. And so, look at some of these small brands, talking about, filmmaking, with films, we always need lighting, And honestly, probably one of the easiest things to get your hands on as a smaller channel is lights, whether it's a pocket light, whether it's like a light dome like this. Those are always ones that people need reviews on, and they're always coming out. Now, you do have to be careful about like quality, but honestly, if you're sometimes beggars can't, that whole saying beggars can't be choosers. I mean, if you're looking at getting lights for free, especially if you're working on your cinematography and good lighting and craft your lighting, you need more lights. And so that would be a place to start. So maybe it's not even lens companies. Maybe it's not you're working with Seven Artisans, Makey, Sigma, whatever, whoever it may be, Tokina, whoever it may be. Maybe you're working with some of these light brands. I think about Moment or what was the brand Nexily that I just worked with. Like these are all smaller brands that need their lights reviewed and need people to talk about their lights. And that's a great way of getting that gear for your film because again, maybe you have the lens, maybe you have a vintage lens that you're able to buy or a good go-to lens that you have, but you need some lighting. Honestly, probably the easiest thing to get your hands on is lighting when you're doing reviews. So with that in mind, go with these brands that are at a level that you feel like you can approach. And as you get bigger, then obviously that grows. I think Pav actually started just working with Sony directly. I think you're working with them directly now. But that's really awesome because he's gotten to a point where he's built up a repertoire, he's built up his subscriber base, his views, into where he can approach these brands to test out like some legit, like, straight from the company. One thing that Pav did, and he can probably speak to at some point, is he approached a local camera store. And I remember the day that they agreed to work with him. And I was like, dude, this is gonna be a game changer for you. This is when I had more subscribers than he did. His was still growing. And I said, dude, this is gonna be a game changer for you because you're gonna be able to get your hands on some of this gear that there's no way I can get my hands on it. And he was like, no, it's not gonna be a big deal. And mark my words, we've talked about this before. I said, Pav, I was right. Because he was able to get some of this gear. Now, don't get me wrong, like you can get your hands on gear and do bad reviews and not get traction and what have you. But But if you can craft all of that, going back to my first 2 points of get better at what you do, build your portfolio, and as you get more opportunities with these brands, it will all come together. And the more you do that, the more these brands will, see that you have an established channel again, and potentially work with you to do more. So Pop says, woohoo, 6K. Gerald says, hell yeah, congrats on 6K. I legit almost forgot. Like, I didn't forget. I saw it today. And I was like, oh, that's cool. My mind's on 10K. And so like, I didn't even think about it for all too long. And then Philip says, you'll have to upgrade from the Pocket 6K to the Ursa 12K once you get there. Does that mean like at 12K subscribers, I need to upgrade to the Ursa 12K? I think that's what that means. I should probably start saving up for it now. Pav says, working with local camera shop was a game changer for me. Still is. We both got stuff from Amazon retailers. I do want to go into a whole nother approach of like what not to do if you're doing reviews on YouTube. And sometimes you've got to find out the hard way people not to work with. And some of those are those Amazon retailers. Mark says 1K per 1K subs seems legit. Yeah, absolutely. I'll just, keep that. That should work out. And Philip says yes. Ursa 12K. By the way, doing beer tonight, not doing whiskey. So sorry, Leo, if you're seeing this. I've had this beer in my refrigerator for a couple of weeks, and I was like, I got to finish this. So it's good local IPA. Cheers to White Street Brewing. All about it. And also cheers to you if you're drinking tonight. Quippy says, yeah, I work with local store most of the time, and they have affiliation with the bigger brands. Also, I make it a point to get to know the local distributors. I have a hard time saying that word, too directly, and build a relationship. So we'll definitely talk about building a relationship because that is going to be key. And we'll talk about like what that means and what that doesn't mean. Honestly, another person, and I've said this before, like Quippy gets his hand on some gear. Like he gets his hands on some gear that I don't think that people that are like twice the size of like mine and Pop's channel can even consider. Like you were sent the 6K Pro, I'm pretty sure, like to test. Like I honestly, I haven't seen Blackmagic work with people that are under, like the only people I've seen Blackmagic directly work with is like Film Riot. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think they work with like smaller channels. So kudos to you, man. I need whatever you're doing. So with that being said, let's talk about the next point. So that point was, find brands that fit, where you are. Sure, reach for the stars, but if you want maybe more success, go with those smaller brands that have a smaller marketing budget. And every once in a while you'll be on a gold mine because like the 7 Artisans 25mm f1.8 is a great lens for the Pocket 4K or OG Pocket camera. And you can make some dope ass content with that lens and that camera system. So absolutely find those brands that will kind of fit where you are. So next point. I wrote down a long point. Let me read this off. Figure out the method. Figure out the method the brand communicates with, or how they communicate. I've said that weirdly, but figure out the way that the brand communicates. Some brands communicate via social media. Some brands communicate via email, and then you need to email them directly. So this kind of gets into like, okay, we've identified who we want to work with. So let's talk about how to reach out to them. If you're a local store, go into the store. I mean, I think Pav, you told me when you first got on board with UK Digital that you just nagged the guy a couple times and finally he's like, fine. It probably went a little bit better than that, but it's a funny story. But find out how they communicate. For the longest time, like, some of the brands, I think I had some brands that I communicated through like Facebook Messenger, which is odd. And I was always like, am I talking to someone? Am I talking to the right person? And so, talk to them through that. I generally start with social media first. because it's just easier. And so I'll like start on Instagram or Twitter. I have very little success on Twitter. And I think it's just because Twitter can be so chaotic at times. But Instagram is usually one I have success with, and I'll DM a brand, and especially if they have like a messaging option on Instagram. If they have that, I'll go through that route. But if they don't, I'll just DM them. And just usually my pitch is something to the effect of, hey, my name's Anson. I run a small channel, or I may not say small, but I run a YouTube channel focused around indie filmmaking, and I showcase gear a lot. And I really like what you're doing. Really be interested to bring your product to my channel for my audience. Maybe if it's a brand I'm really excited about, I'll go into a little bit deeper about that. And then, just say, hey, would you be interested in collaborating? That's a big thing, like collaborating. Don't say, would you be interested in, I've had some success with being like, would you be interested in sending me stuff to review? Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I've gotten to where I'll use the wording of collaboration because the brand doesn't think you're just like a freeloader. And so they're more open to collaborating than just sending you something. I had a brand, I won't tell you who it is, recently. I think there was some confusion that they thought I wanted to get sent a lens and keep it. And they weren't trying to do that. They were trying to give me like a media pricing, sure. But they were like, we don't give out our lenses for free. And I actually, I think I just got really busy. I never got like past that. And I wanted to clarify, like, I don't want you to send it to me to keep. If you have a loaner program, I'd much rather do that. I'm not trying to buy a new lens right now. And I'd really like to work with you and establish a relationship, but I'm not trying to buy lenses right now. But if you want to send me a loaner, lens, we can work from that. And I need to get back to them. Don't do what I did and not get back to them. Because long-term building relationships. But say, cool, are you interested in collaboration? And then maybe send them, going back to your portfolio, maybe you have a review that is specifically kind of dealing with what you would be doing with what you're requesting. So if you want a light, maybe if you have a light review, send them that. Hey, here's what I've done here. You might even, I sometimes will say, like, here's what I've done for this brand. I tend not to do that just because some brands can get kind of weird about that. But hey, this is something I've done for another light. What do you think? Would you be interested in collaboration? Sometimes I'll just send them my channel. Hey, if you want reference, here's my channel. Let me know. And usually that's my pitch. It's usually, hey, this is who I am. This is what I'd like to do. Are you interested in collaborating? Here's some references. What do you think? And sometimes you hear nothing. Sometimes you get we're not interested, or we don't really do that. And then sometimes I won't even say, like, all the time you'll get a yes, because you don't. You get a lot more no's than you get yeses. But every once in a while you'll get somebody say, cool, yeah. I mean, I don't want to give too much away, but like working with Tokina has been really awesome because I've never worked with them before. And I've heard that they are really good with content creators and influencers. And so I reached out to them on Instagram. I was like, hey, really like what you guys are doing. I'm trying to get more into reviewing cinema lenses for my indie filmmaking channel that, maybe if people want to rent some good lenses, here are some options. What do you guys think? And I think the reply that they said was, we love working with content creators and anybody that will talk about our cinema lenses. So I was like, dope. I don't hear that often. And I really love that because, brands are willing to work. And I don't want to, let me also clarify, like, if you do that same exact thing, it is not going to guarantee that brand's going to talk to you. So this is one thing I've learned, that like, while your friend is, getting some looking over at Pob's comment, your friend is getting all the gear in the world and you try the same thing and no one responds. It happens all the damn time. So even though that was my personal experience, I cannot guarantee it's going to happen the same way. And nor do I want to guarantee it's going to happen the same way, because it probably won't. But that was just a testament to some brands being really cool about working with content creators. And it's just putting that pitch together, putting something that's short, concise, and to the point. So start with social media. Well, at least that's what I do. I start with social media. If I can find that brand's direct marketing email address, I may email them, because a lot of times the marketing team is the one that's going to provision these sample items, whether it's a loaner lens, whether it is a whatever product you're trying to get, whatever it may be. Usually it's the marketing team that's handling a lot of that. The sales team doesn't do that all that much. So you really want to go after the marketing team. So if you can find the marketing team's email, that's probably a great place to start. But at the same time, like, if you can't find anything and all you have is a email address, start there. Go there and do that. Because I mean, some of these brands don't have social media accounts or don't keep up with them. They don't have like a marketing email address, but they have like a contact email address. I think Sigma, I actually reached out to like their customer facing like customer service, and that's got to be annoying for the customer service. And I apologize to anybody I may have talked to at Sigma that was dealing with customer service. And I'm a YouTuber that's like, can you guys like let me test some stuff? So I apologize about that. We're good now, but still apologize. So yeah, it's one of those things that you kind of have to do some digging, find the way that they communicate, find the way that they operate, and just go, like, ask, and be persistent. How many times, we can all say this, like, how many times have we heard no before we heard yes with working some of these brands? And again, I want to make the clarification, like, this is not just for review channels. Like, this is, going back to what we talked about last week of having YouTube fund your filmmaking project. If you're trying to get sent gear or get free gear, this is a way to do that with brands. And not all of it's I hate saying the word get free gear, because I never want to promise free gear, or like never want to say like get to YouTube for free gear. It may be like you work with a brand and they loan you a product. I literally am sweating bullets because I have an insurance policy on file with brands. And if I damage that lens or if I damage that gear, it's coming out of my personal budget, and that terrifies me. And so, like, I can't guarantee it's always going to be like, here's some free gear, but you kind of play ball with those brands. So, real quick, we're going to get into some chats, and then we'll go to the next point. Let's see. Philip says, Blackmagic margins are too slim to send free ship. Sure, absolutely. Brian says, sorry, I think, did I say Philip said Blackmagic margins? I think I said Philip. We'll just say Philip. Then Brian, write a script and show them what you researched. Yes and no. A lot of times, so you'll hear a lot of strategy channels talk about not reviewing the gear you're trying to get, because you will send, like, let's say you do a review and you send it to them and you say, hey, this is what I can do for you. Some brands don't play nice, and they may just use that. So that's kind of like one of those things, like, you kind of have to play it by ear, but that's basically working for free. So you do want to be careful about that, of like sharing like what you have script wise or what you have review wise. Especially if you've already kind of made the review and you want maybe compensation or a free version of whatever you reviewed, whatever it may be. Just be careful with that, because some brands, like I said, just don't play nicely. Quippy says, yeah, because I know the main distributor, that's that word again that I always have problems with, to Blackmagic here, which is also a distributor to Aperture Lights too. So killing two birds with one stone. So people. That's honestly, it's like half the game, is like knowing the right people. So absolutely. Pop says, I'm a freeloader and proud. I love it. I love it. Fernando says, hello again, brother. Hello, Fernando. Hope you're doing well. It's been a while. So I'm glad to see you on the stream. Quippy says, yeah, Freewell was so annoyed when I asked them for the DJI FPV ND filters. When I emailed them, I guess my mistake was mentioning Polar Pro. They freak out and told me I had I had the chick to ask for freebies. Yeah, some brands are just weird. Some brands are just weird. They all have egos. Yeah, that's where you kind of maybe don't want to mention other brands. It's a tough game to play. It's a tough game to play. Mark says, I wonder how many of those service people get as far as like requests. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it probably happens all the time. I'm pretty sure. Philip says it's not free because you have to make video. You have the factor in the time it takes to make the content. Very true. And that is a hard thing to do. I don't think I've reviewed or I've gotten a product that I haven't reviewed yet. It's come close. There have been a couple of products where the company like sent me it and was like, hey, if you review it, that's fine, take your time. And I've sat on it for weeks. And honestly, sometimes was just like, I don't have the time to review this. But I think I'm in the clear. I think all the products I've been sent, I always feel guilty, even though like they know that like I told them I'm busy and I can't guarantee it. But I think I'm in the clear. I think Pav and I have joked about, oh God, there was some like star thing that he got one time and he's yet to review that. Brian says, true. It's almost as if they want you to break the lens to own it. Wonder if they fix it too. Scary. Still waiting for my slider review. That one was only for Amazon. I only had to review it for Amazon. So that one did not get a YouTube review, and honestly, it probably would have tanked. Johnny Ray, welcome, Johnny Ray. Everyone uses a Sigma 18 to 35 f1.8 with the BMPCC 6K. Maybe. I mean, I do. That's what I'm using right now. Although I had the conversation with somebody today in the Discord, and I was like, that's why I bought the Cine version. So I can at least say I have the 18 to 35 T2, the Cine version. So yeah, it's a good lens. I will say like Tokina's definitely give them a run for the money. But still a really dope lens. I love the lens. Fernando says, I would like you to watch my short Academia Alpha. I would like to know your opinion and what I need to make videos more. What word is that? Is that it? I feel dumb. Like, I don't know what that word is. Hit me up on Instagram and give me a link and I'll watch it. You may have already done that. And if I have, I'll check it again. So do that. Wow, I feel dumb. What is that? I'm going to go. I'm just going to go home. Pop slider. Johnny Ray, I do too. Is the Cine version different from the art? Mostly in body. Honestly, you're paying for a Cine housing of, I've said this on a couple of different occasions. So if anybody's heard this, I apologize. But basically it's, there's a lot of body differences with the Cine version. You're getting a little bit longer focus throw. I think the art is like 130 degrees and the Cine is 180. So a little bit more. You get the focus gears, you get the aperture gear, you get the zoom gear, which is really nice. Some versions, I know like the versions I have come with illuminated text. So that's really nice too. Just overall like good quality housing. And it obviously is get offered in PL, which I do have, which honestly is worth its weight in gold. The Tokinas, the PLs were out of stock, and so I got the EF versions. And man, I miss that security in that mount. So, yeah. So honestly, is it worth the upgrade? I can't be that judge, but optically they are very similar, if not identical. It's really all just the housing. I am going to be doing a review of this Sigma Cines. I think I'm probably going to include the zooms with the primes that I got, just to talk about like the Cines in general. And there are some things that I love about these Cine lenses, as opposed to some other Cine lenses that I've used. And we'll talk about that. One primarily being filter thread size. It's a dumb one, but I love it because it has an 82 millimeter filter thread size. The Tokinas have an 86, And it's like the one negative I have about these lenses right now is like I could not get an ND filter in time because 86 is one of those, like, I know at that point I probably need a matte box, and I just did not have time to get it before this review. So a lot of the stuff I'm doing is without NDs, and that drives me nuts. So I got a couple more points when we get through some of these chats. Also, if all else fails, when I have the budget, I buy gear to review. Absolutely. I mean, honestly, like the Sigma Zooms, I bought those. I'm going to review those eventually. I mean, I've reviewed the photo versions, but the cine versions I'll review. So yeah, I'm going to butcher this name, and I'm sorry. Huseria says, love Sigma glass. Have the 24-70, great lens. Great lens. I love that lens. If that's probably if you only own one lens, the 24-70 from Sigma. For the A7S III, it's wild. Also, respond to your DMs. That B-Doc is actually going to happen with potential in a bigger way than expected. Let's see if I can get you on. I think I saw that DM come through and I was super busy. I apologize about that. Yes, we'll talk. I need to do that. I'm okay. We're going to chat. Brian says, what are your thoughts on the Rokinon Zine cine lenses? Great cine lenses. Quippy's actually tested those out. My only problem with Rokinon lenses is chromatic aberration. If the zines, I haven't tested the zines personally, but if the zines are optically similar to the Rokinon lenses and chromatic aberration is just out of control, I would pass on them. People feel certain ways about chromatic aberration. That is one thing that I've hated about the Rokinon lenses. I say hated. I do actually like the Rokinon lenses for like small budgets and like good cinema lens for that budget. But the chromatic aberration is just out of control. And if the zine lens, like I said, if the zine lenses are that way, I'd pass, especially for the price tag. I look at something like Dieso films. I look at something like, I mean, for that matter, like look at the ATX zoom lenses. You can get the zoom lenses for a little bit more than what you would pay for like one zine prime, especially if you look at the CF or like the carbon fiber ones. So I need to get my hands on some zine lenses to give it a real authority on it. But Johnny says, can you recommend a lens support that goes in front of the base plate? I can't find one for the life of me. A lens support that goes in front of the base plate. I mean, I use a small rig lens support right now. I have one, but it's on 15mm rods. I'll have to look at that. I'll let you know. I had the 6K Pro, so I have NDs. Jealous. That is the only thing that I'm like, damn, I wish I had that 6K Pro now, because I have these Tokina zoom lenses, and I'm like, let's go shoot in the shade because I have no NDs. So, and I mean, from that shoot last night, came out pretty well for not having NDs. Brian says, sorry if I did not listen carefully. Totally cool. Mark says, that's the second or third time this week you've been called out for checking your DMs. Johnny, small rig has a base plate with 15mm rods holder that you can attach a lens support onto. Yes, I'm sure Condor Blue Tilter Nicey rig should also. Yeah, not one that requires rods. That's tough. I have seen some where you have like a longer base plate. Like if you're working on a tripod and you have a longer base plate, you know, some lenses have like my Sigmas come with a lens support with them, and you can potentially attach that to a longer base plate. Yeah, honestly, I can't think of one without having to use rods. Hit me up on Instagram. We'll see what we can come up with. The zine lenses I review was nice, but for my style of shooting, I find cine lenses overkill because I find also the focus rack is too big for me for a one-man band. There are times where cine lenses are not what I need either. I was on a run and gun shoot a couple weeks ago, and I'm glad that I had the Nucleus Nano because I was able to kind of just like, you know, turn the knob, get my focus point. And that's where it had been an advantage to go with the photo version for manual focus rather than the cine version. But still, like, I still love having those cine lenses. Mark says the DJI SC, RS2, RSC2 have lens support on the Pro kits, but otherwise I'm really not too sure. Yeah, I'm blanking on some stuff. Most of the lens support I've seen is probably going to be on rods or something that's like a longer base plate. So yeah, hit me up. Let me know. Join the Discord. Actually, that'd be a great plug to join the Discord because we have a whole channel for gear. We have a few channels for gear, and there are plenty of people there that probably will have some resources. So with that, I'm going to go drop the link to the Discord before I go in and talk about my last couple points. So here we go. I'm dropping it now. All right. So we talked about, finding the way that the company communicates. And with that, the next point is persistency and I said this on the last time, like persistency and consistency. Like, be consistent in the quality of stuff that you're making. Be consistent with your reviews, because obviously, as these brands work with you, if you're just kind of like falling off the face of the earth and you're not doing reviews, like, they may not work with you that much. You may get one review or one piece of gear and review that and be done. So be consistent. But be like, as far as like communicating with these brands, like, be persistent. Like I said before, like, as many times as we've heard yes, we've heard 5 more no's. So just be persistent with these brands. That's another big thing. And then beyond that, and this is kind of the last thing, and we can have open discussion about this, is build a relationship. And this is where I'm going to soapbox for a little bit. Building a relationship, because these brands, especially brands that you can see yourself wanting to work with in the future, the biggest thing for you to do is build trust with that brand. Build a relationship with that brand. Think of them as a partner in your overall YouTube ecosystem. Let me take this comment down. Again, one that comes to mind for me is Sigma, because I work with them so much. I think I talked last week about the embargo that I was able to do for their firmware. And I was able to work with that firmware under embargo because I had established with them that I have a community of people that, are into the Sigma FP. I've cultivated videos around the Sigma FP. I've worked with establishing a trust with them that they, the guy that I work with has, felt like he could trust me and work with me on that. And that doesn't happen if you don't make a priority to build a relationship with these brands. 7 Artisans. I'm almost to the point where I can talk to 7 Artisans and be like, hey, you guys have this lens coming out. I literally just talked to them about their new 55 millimeter. They have a Mark II coming out for the f1.4. And I was like, hey, you may not have this in stock right now, but when you have it in stock, I would love to test it. And they were like, cool, yeah, we'll send you one. And I may have to remind them because people are busy. But that is only because I have done a ton of reviews for them and generally say positive things. And that's one point I want to make is I'm just going to put as blunt as I can. Don't be an asshole. Don't be an asshole. If you don't like something, don't be an asshole. I'm probably going to get demonetized for how many times I said that. But if you find yourself not liking a product, either A, reach out to the company, say, hey, I really don't have a ton of good things to say about this. I don't want to dog it. I don't want to diss it. I don't want to put a bad rep on it. Maybe I can send this back and we can work something out. I've done that once. I've done that once where there was literally something I was like, I can't review this. It's that bad. And they were like, can you do something? And I was like, it's not going to be positive. And they were like, that's fine, but we'll take a hit if you send it back, or it was some weird conundrum that was going to happen there. But I was like, I literally have nothing good to say about this. And you have to say that with tact. This is one thing that, if you guys remember, I got really hot, last year or earlier this year when the FPL came out and Gerald Undone did his, this is a bad camera, I don't recommend it, I'm going to half-ass this review. I was pissed about that video. Not from the fact of like it never happens, but like these brands only have a certain amount of products to send out for marketing. And in that scenario, I feel like you just wasted their resources. And especially for a brand that you know is good for other things, like you want to work with them on lenses, you want to work with them on, you know, other things they're putting out. Like, don't half-ass a review like that. You know, do your due diligence. I've told you guys before, there are some Sigma lenses I don't like. I've dogged the I think I dogged the macro lens. I feel like I've told Sigma directly. I was like, I'm not really a huge fan of the macro lens. And even that review, you know, I pointed out all the positive things I could, but was real about it. Was like, you know, I'd only recommend it if you're XYZ. Otherwise, I'd pass. And that's a healthy way of doing that. You don't have to sit there and be like, this lens freaking sucks and you shouldn't pick it up and I think it's trash. Like, don't do that shit, because what you're going to do is you're not going to have a relationship with the brand. And if let's say I, you know, like worked with 7 artisans and I'm like, you guys are a nobody brand, you know, you guys aren't putting out shit. Like, I'm going to do whatever I want to do. And, you know, whatever, I'm just not going to review what you send me, or I'm not going to say something nice because, you know, like whatever. They're growing now. Like, they're at a point where B&H is selling them. They're a reputable brand at this point. And, you know, they were, you know, the knockoff brand only a few years ago, and now they're starting to be more respectable. And if I had said that back then I wouldn't have the opportunity to work with this brand that is growing and that is becoming more established in the industry. And because I treated them with respect, because I built a healthy relationship with them, I'm able to actually leverage my relationship with them to work with them on lenses or product that people want to see. And with that, what comes with that is usually things like views, clout with your channel, as far as like people following your channel, because you can get your hands on those things. But it all comes down to relationship. You know, as a filmmaker, going back to the whole like subject matter, if you're a filmmaker, indie filmmaker, and you run a YouTube channel because you want to try to get YouTube to help you fund your projects, one thing that's going to help that is if you can get in with a brand and build a relationship with a brand. Okay, I have a shoot coming up in 2 weeks. Hey, XYZ, like whatever brand it may be, I would love to review this lens or this light. Would you let me review it? And I'm able to use it on this shoot. Perfect. You've just secured gear that you would normally have to get from a rental house for maybe a couple $100, or you would have to buy out of pocket, and maybe you don't have the budget for that. You're able to get that as maybe like even just like a loaner product for a couple weeks to do your shoot for free. And that is the part where it comes back to, if you're an indie filmmaker and you're trying to leverage YouTube to help fund your projects, this is absolutely a way to do so, is to get in with these brands and build a relationship with these brands. And, you know, at the end of the day, that's going to help you, you know, again, like in the last 2 weeks, I've had Sigma Cine lenses, I've had Tokina Cine lenses, all because I've done everything that I've listed. These are all things that I've done. I've built up my portfolio. I've worked on the quality of my videos. I've found how these, you know, brands, you know, how they communicate. I've reached out to them, made pitches, got past no. Tokina didn't even acknowledge me when I sent them an email the first time. I reached out to them on social media, and they said, yeah, sure, hit us up on email. I emailed them. I didn't hear from them. And I'm sure just somebody just lost the email, or like it got lost in the shuffle, whatever. But that's when some people may say, oh, they don't want to work with me, F them, whatever. No, I mean, I know the attitude they had when I reached out on social media. So I said, let's try again. And I tried again, and they said, yeah, here's, you know, this representative and they'll talk to you and get this set up. And I was like, cool. And now I'm shooting with Tokina Cine lenses. So these are all things that I've done. And again, as a filmmaker, especially as an indie filmmaker with a small budget, it can be such a help when you're trying to make films on a small budget to utilize and to leverage YouTube to help you in these smaller budget projects. And working with brands is absolutely a way to do so. So that's my spiel. That's my, how to work with brands, some points that I have. Again, like I said at the beginning, this is YouTube strategy channels always like to say like, this is one fit all, like the same, everything, the same thing works for everyone. That's not true. That's not true. Don't ever believe that. Like sometimes YouTube is a crapshoot. But these are things that I've done to work with these brands and get some pretty dope ass gear to work with. And so absolutely, like if I can help you guys understand how to get in there with these brands, how to work with these brands, by all means. With that being said, if you do have questions, like if you see the stream or you hear something, hit me up on Discord. That's probably where I'm doing a lot of my funneling of my messaging right now. I'm trying not to space myself out over all different social medias. It gets confusing at that point. So, go, DM me on Discord and, ask your question. Usually the other place I respond to is Instagram. So that being said, let me get to some chats. I think there's some conversations happening, and then we'll wrap up. Got to go play some Call of Duty. Brian says, Canon 24-70 seems like a good all-around lens. Is it better than 24-70 Sigma? Mark answered that with, from personal experience between the Canon 24-70 and Sigma 24-70, which I still own, no, the Sigma is better, and it has optical stabilization, which can be clutch. It depends on what mount you're using it for too, because the newer 24-70s don't have stabilization. The L mount and I want to say the E mount don't have stabilization, but I do know like the Canon EF does have stabilization. So if you're adapting it and you have an adapter that transmits stabilization, by all means, the Sigma one. Brian says, I guess good for video too. Come in clutch. Cine lingo is not my virtue for now. It is absolutely good for video. Absolutely good for video. I many a times lose a shot because I was just way too shaky. I think there's this conversation. So Mark was saying, yes, the optical stabilization really helps removing micro jitters or longer shutter speeds. And Philip was saying 24-70s are kind of jack of all trades, so optics are probably a wash. I think ergonomics are really important for video shooters. Canons are good. Some of the third parties aren't. Very true. Very true. You just kind of have to go. I always kind of like watch comparison reviews or stuff like that. So in terms of focus and zoom rings in particular, it makes a big difference. Very true. And then that's what I hear from Brian. Quippy says, you're right about making sure we do research about the brand, because a while back I was offered a review the Mars 300, but at the time I didn't know the brand. So I think they end up channeling it elsewhere. Yeah. Know how you can market to the brand, know how you can reach out to the brand and how you can talk to the brand. I think a Hollyland rep actually reached out to me. I need to reach out to them. Yeah, research the brand, know what you're talking about. There's a lot of times where people get their hands on gear that they don't know about that gear. They don't know about that brand. And sometimes you lose the respect of like your viewer and the brand. So that's never good. All right, you guys, it's 9:05 or 9:10. I got to go get my Call of Duty on. So you guys have a great night. Thank you guys for joining. I hope you guys got something out of this. Something I did want to ask is, let me know in the comments below or in the chat, like, what do you want to see from these streams? Is this side of like the business side of YouTube and filmmaking what you want to see? And I can't really speak a ton to the business side of filmmaking specifically, because obviously I'm a filmmaker by hobby. let me know what you would like to see. Is this stuff that I've been talking about the last couple of weeks just like not resonating with you? Would you like to see, some other stuff? Like, let me know in the comments below. Just, I like streaming and I like hanging out, but I always like to give value to the streams. I don't want to just like get on and be like, guys, I've had a shitty day and I want to talk about it. I mean, while that's fun and while we could probably all laugh about it, I want to make sure that I give you guys some evergreen content to go home with. So let me know, comments below, what you guys like to see from the stream. Would you like to see more of this, more behind the scenes, kind of like YouTube land, behind the scenes of like some of the films that we're doing or some of the films I'm making? Let me know. Just let me know. Brian says, great streaming. Thank you, Brian, as always. Quippy says, thanks, bro, and enjoy your game. Oh, I will. 2v2 is going down. It's going down, I think. It depends on if my nephew gets on. So we'll see. And then Brian says, when you play video games, play Beethoven music. You split personality. I feel like that would throw me off. I might be actually more relaxed and probably do better, but no, it's probably going to be some like metal and screaming and stuff like that. All right, you guys. Thank you as always. Go and friend your journey. Go embrace life. Stay safe. Be happy. Support each other. Wash those hands, and I'll see you here next time. Peace. Oh God, where are my buttons?